Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Mysteries Unlimited. First, let me apologize for looking so tired. I've had a rough week. Uh, I've had two relatives in the hospital, my dad and my uncle. My uncle got to come home today. Uh, Still a very sick man. My dad's still in the hospital, but there's a chance he gets to come home tomorrow. He's doing much better. Uh, his levels have got way off, and his heart got out of the rhythm. And they've got him lined out pretty good now, and there's a chance he might get to come home tomorrow. So that's a little bit of good news. But the traveling and then not knowing and the waiting on the phone calls, it's kind of wore me out, and I'm not got a lot of work done this week, and I'm really feeling my age, I guess. But let me go ahead and bring in Leo. We got a great show for you guys tonight. I did get to work on hit some and get things set up for the show. We'll cover some very important topics, and I hopefully you can you'll get something out of it, and you'll learn a few things that are helpful for you in the future. Let me bring Leo in and see if he's awake. Hope he didn't fall asleep in the green room. Hey, there you are.
If I fall asleep, it'll be from the green, but not the green room.
Oh, you ain't been blazing, have you, boy?
A little bit.
Your eyes are awful red. Oh, no, wait a minute. That's your bandana. How's everything on your end of the world today?
Different. Becca's was working a different shift. They've put her on a different shift, and it's got everything all screwed up. She's not getting off until 7 o'clock at night, so it's got everything all weird around here.
She's not going to be able to man the chat for us tonight.
Nope, that's okay. I got it open, and I can see it all
Okay.
just fine. So
All right. I do get a notification that when there's something new posted there, and sometimes I'm in a spot where I can actually look at it, and sometimes I'm not. So if it's something that we need to address, just try to let me know.
I will do that.
We don't want nobody to ask a question that we just overlook. Sometimes there's questions asked that we don't want to answer because it might, we might have to name names or be mean about something. We don't necessarily want to do that, even though there's a lot of mean people out there, especially in the Bigfoot world. The Bigfoot world is a rough. It's like one of the toughest gangs ever. And none of the Crips and Bloods have got anything on the Bigfoot community.
Verbally, anyway.
Right, very few of them would, do anything physical to somebody. But anyways, uh, uh, we're just kind of jumping on to some of the Bigfoot community. It's pretty rough though. They sure don't care to run you down. That's for sure. And we'll get into some of that later too. I know.
Yes, we will.
I guess tonight we're going to start off with some pictures of Leos, and I think it's very important that when we share these pictures, I don't think a whole lot of people's actually seen them. I mean, some, but not a whole lot. I think we need to get a little bit of backstory about how the picture came about, what you were doing, which I know you're probably Bigfooting. I don't think you was out canoeing or nothing like that. Let me see. We got. Hey, what's up, guys? That's me and the I3s. I guess I tell you say that. Well, hello. Anyways, Leo, let's go ahead and share the first photograph. Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, and I always like this photograph. I'm going to show what I guess is pretty much the original photograph, and then I'm going to show the second thing because I was the one that did it. I kind of lightened it up and tried to take a little bit of the blur out of it. This is a Bigfoot that was captured by Leo in 2019. He actually done the little tag on it there that for copyright. Let me show you the second one. He had actually sent a picture to me, and let me make sure I get the right thing, and I will. And all I did I adjusted contrast, and I got at the time I had a de-blur type program that kind of helped de-blur it a little bit. Uh, I think it's a pretty good photograph myself. Uh, Leo, tell us a little bit about that, and were I know you can't tell the exact location, of course, but you can tell us a little bit about what area you was in, what it's like, what you know about this particular photograph.
So this we got this in July of 2019. It was our first, Becca and I's first trip together to the area where I had my first sighting in '97. So I had been back there, but this was it first for me and Becca. And so basically, so that was on the mountain and at the brook. We were just, oh, I don't know, maybe a quarter mile down from where I had my sighting in '97. So I'm already in the water. Becca's over on the other side, walking in between the slate rock. There's little areas of sand and gravel and stuff. So she's over on the side. She's actually the one who got this picture. I got the first one. She got that one. So I see in the first one, if you want to throw that up, I notice off to my right.
You talking about I'm sorry to interrupt you. Talking about the one that's slightly darker?
Yeah.
Okay, let me.
The one that just shows his outline.
Okay, just a second, and I will let me get hit, and it won't take me just a second because I don't want to. Right, here we go. This one, was that the correct one?
Yep. So basically, I catch what looked to me like the shadow of a dome-shaped shadow in the corner of my eye, and I look up, and I get this, and sure enough, it's actually his head. So I'm down in the water over here, so I step ahead enough to get that picture there, and then Becca's over on the side, and she's like, "What? What?" And I'm going like this with my head, trying to show her. Like, yeah, they're right there. We just hit the jackpot. So anyway, I gave her the signal to take a picture. So she got the Olympus, camera up and got the picture that we just had up there previously. Okay. So she said, I know. So I did finally get over on the sand. He turned around and went back behind the tree, but still facing us. So Becca's like, well, shouldn't we be going after him? Shouldn't we try to get back across the brook and get more pictures? And I said, no, it's over. I said, if we're going to see him again, that's his decision. That was his decision. So it's done for now until he says otherwise. And
okay. Can I ask you just a couple questions about this?
Sure.
Do you have an estimate on maybe how tall this figure was?
What I have to go by was the initial seeing, like I said, the dome part, and quickly looking up like that. I didn't get to stand and study him long. Mm-hmm. But this would be a teen. This would be. I wouldn't say he was anything more than. I don't think he's much taller than you. I'd say even 6'3", 6'4", maybe, and he wasn't that. He's broad, but not, full-grown adult broad. So right. I'm guessing, and I'm safe in saying a teenager.
Definitely see. You can see. Well, if you zoom in like I have, you can kind of see his little furry head.
Yeah, see, and that's as far as my knowledge of how to do any of these picture type things. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's got like fuzzy. His hair is very coarse, very fuzzy.
Well, the reason I wanted to kind of zoom in on his head last summer, I told you we looked at one through binoculars,
Mhm.
and the head was it looked like somebody who had a burr haircut, and it had grown back. You know how it kind of looks. I don't know. Just looks kind of weird when you get a burr haircut and it grows back and it's a few inches long or whatever. It's kind of fuzzy
Mhm.
looking. And it kind of resembles that right there. Really, it did. And we looked at it through binoculars.
So, yeah, I'm comfortable in saying he's probably a teenager. And so we continued on down the brook, came back up, and came back up on that side actually, and looked around. But the problem with being able to go up and check for tracks or anything is where this picture was taken. You have the brook bank comes down like this, and the trees come out and grow over because the water washes away what's underneath. So the trees tend to grow out like this. And so in order for me to get up there, I would have to go climb another trail and then slide down on my rear end to get back down to where he where he was.
And
And
by then, it'd probably been gone. So.
oh yeah, long gone by then. And I'm like, well, I really don't need to see tracks that bad. We saw him, so I'm not doing that.
Well, do you
So
think maybe he was curious of what you guys were doing, or see it watching just fool around in the water or whatever?
well, I mean, in the other picture, that the one that I got you to brighten up for me,
Okay. All right, this was the
he's
first picture. Let's go back to the second picture now, okay? Let's go. This is the one that I kind of brightened up and cleared up. There we go. That was the second picture that was actually taken by Rebecca, right?
and I'll tell you exactly what he's doing. He's looking down at me, wondering, what is this dumbass doing in the water? He's not bathing, he's not fishing, he's not swimming. Why is he in the water? But yeah, he's looking down at me, and that's when Becca was able to get, like, she's directly across from him.
Okay. And that's the one that I kind of enhanced, and you can actually it brought his face out quite a bit. You can actually see what appears to be an eye, his nose, his mouth, his lips.
I mean, just look at the expression in his eyes. He's like, what an idiot this guy is.
Yeah, he's trying to drown himself.
Me
No.
sloshing through the water, waist deep water, and trying to keep my cell phone dry, and then this happened. So yeah,
And you sat on these photographs for a pretty good while, correct?
uh, what I did was that night I came home, I sent them to you, and I had sent them to Nancy before we even left the mountain. Um,
Well, I was number
and
two. That's okay.
well, no, it was a matter of getting you when I got home. With Nancy, I just texted them to her.
Mm.
So we kind of went back and forth about what we should do and what we shouldn't do and all that. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to release them and on the blog, and the people that are interested can have a look, whatever. The people that aren't, and the people that are going to run their mouth, they're going to do their thing anyway. So I was already a target by then, and I'll always be a target. So, but
Well, last on our last show we talked about how there are certain people in the Bigfoot community. That's their whole purpose of being in the Bigfoot community is to try to debunk and deflect and just make evidence nothing, so people don't believe.
and coincidentally, it was those people that I mean, they didn't. Nobody even. I mean, the supporters and everything were like, because I mean, there's the three the three things that came out was a bear, and like, are you blind? Come on, he's not a bear.
Mm,
Uh, of course, dude in a suit, yet another
right,
form fitting, probably $10,000 suit.
right, yeah.
Um, and there was bear suit, but the main one for this was horrible Photoshop.
Well, we can answer that in just a brief moment here about the Photoshop claims. I want to ask you a question though. Rebecca had you said that actually taking this second picture. Uh, what was her whole thoughts about seeing this Bigfoot and being out there in the bush and being able to capture a picture of it? What she think about it?
Well, our previous, we went into Area 2 and we had it's gonna be, that would be a whole other show, but we went into Area 2 and had something really, really bizarre happen. So we went into this cautiously, but at the same time, I was trying to explain to her that, what happened at that last one is not typical. What typical is what happened that day, which was a lot of action on up on the brook banks and stopping to hear what could possibly be chatter, and we also got a vocal, but and when where we had gifted, and I don't remember what it was that we gifted, there was a white feather there for us when we got back. Well, there was a white feather there. That's whether they put it there for us, I don't know. Let's just see
A
them.
totally white feather.
Yep.
I wonder what that could have been from.
I don't know. It was just small, so it could have been anything from could possibly be seagull from that area.
Well, okay, so possibility.
But she was really
blown away. I'm sure she was blown away by everything.
Oh yeah, she was just amazed that it could go from that bad to what we experienced before to that good. But for me to try, the hardest part of that day was to try to explain to her why we don't go chasing after them. Because yes, you get your encounter that day, but if you pull stuff like that, you're not going to get a second or a third. I mean, this doing stupid things like that is exactly what will stop people from having continuous encounters. Is they call the shots, whether you like it or not, whether you do go after them or not, they call the shots. So
yeah, I've experienced that. There's been times I've had things happen that were I wanted more to happen, but it was up to them what you get. If they want to make a vocal or a wood knock or anything like that, it's totally up to them. You can't control that aspect of it for sure.
And a lot of that with wood knocks and that, I know a lot of people think that they're fooling them. I mean, they'll knock back, if nothing else, just for a little entertainment for themselves. I mean, they're not being fooled. They're willingly participating. They know.
Now, when you guys got this picture, do you think that was the only one in that particular area right in your vicinity? And also, did you hear any wood knocks or anything like that during this time?
No, on the way down, all we heard, and it's really hard to call, would be the chatter off, like up at the top of the banks.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the problem is with that is it's also running brook water. So you're trying to pick out what might be and what probably isn't at the same time. So
yeah, I've been there.
There was that, and you could hear branches snapping and stuff like that, but nothing that it would indicate that we were going to have anything major like this happen.
But you do believe this was most likely the only one in that particular area at that time?
I really can't say, because like I said, it would noise on both sides of the bank, so it's hard to say. I mean, I know that there's at least been that family there since 1965. That's when Mom actually saw what she to this day still says is a demon.
That's what people do if they don't know what it is. It's either the devil or a demon.
Yeah,
that's just what we do.
You tried to tell her anything about Bigfoot or Sasquatch or anything like that, and explain to her that, Mom, what you're telling me that you saw, that's exactly what it was. I know, but that thing is a demon, and you shouldn't be going around them.
Wendy asked a question about this one here, about it leaning down, and it is kind of leaning down and looking at you guys because it's up higher than yours, right?
Yeah, the both on both sides in this area, like some parts of that brook, there's a steep bank on this side, but it's flat over here. But both sides on this, they both come down, and that's why and it washes out underneath. Uh, that's why the trees grow like this rather than straight up and down.
Uh,
So he's kind of leaning against the tree. Now in the first one, he wasn't so much doing that. He was
yeah,
just
well,
kind of back.
I'm gonna go back to that picture. I think Duke was the one who didn't see the first picture. This was the actual first picture. Leo actually captured this picture, and the second picture we just showed is the one that Rebecca captured. And this was what alerted you that he was there, and he was trying to tell Rebecca. And you can see here he's standing. To me, he seems to be standing more straight up.
Yeah, he is. If you look at even if you look at the branches, he what he does is he kind of moves down a little bit and then leans to the side,
Mm-hmm.
and that's when he's kind of looking diagonally down at me.
Okay. Let's go back to the other picture, just because it's for me it's a little bit clearer. This is the original, and then Adderleo sent it to me. I fooled around with it and tried to bring out some of the details and unblur it just a little bit. And as you can see his face actually really well. And yeah, he's definitely looking down. You can see. I think it's kind of funny because you're in the water and he's probably wondering what in the world are these people doing.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't be the first time that, if he's related to the one that I saw in '97, then obviously it's still that family. And I don't know I can't say for sure. I can't state that as a fact, but everything is pointing to that. So,
okay, Leo, they asked a question if there was any odor associated with this Bigfoot.
no, not a bit.
Well, I think
Wasn't
that
with the
a
first
lot of
one I
times
saw
people
there, and
go
wasn't
ahead.
with him. Yeah, there wasn't with the first one I saw about 25 years ago, and there wasn't with him. Not at
Well,
all.
what I was going to say was that a lot of times people get this in their mind that all the Bigfoot smell, but if you actually go back and look at the statistics, only about 10% of reports actually report some kind of foul odor. I know I've been around them many times, and if I've ever smelled anything, which I don't have a very good sense of smell because of allergies, but I've never really smelled anything for sure I could say was a Bigfoot. And I've been around them like you numerous times. Of course, you've got much better photographs and things than I have and experiences, but I've been around them close and I've never smelt one.
No, there was one incident that I've had where I was doing an all-nighter and I got a really nasty, and it's a lot like what I've heard other people describe, like almost like a sulfur and manure mixed together kind of smell. But I can't connect.
Well, we don't know. It may be something they can control. Even you know, it may be something they can put off to try to make stuff leave them alone or whatever. That's just something we don't know.
It's from Nova Scotia, Canada. Patrick wanted to know what state they were in. Um. So, yeah, where were we?
Well, we was talking about Rebecca's reaction to seeing.
Well, she was. What we did when we got home, like I said, I sent them off to you to see if there was anything you could do to clear them up or whatever. And every picture that we had after these, every picture that we took that day, we went through with a fine-tooth comb. So we had a blast all that. It went way into that night late that night. We had a really good time with.
Oh,
If nothing had happened that day, it was still an awesome day. But so this was just the icing on the cake. So for her to be able to go through what we went through a few months prior at Area 2, to having something pleasant and almost funny like this happen was awesome. That's the best
what
part of it.
you're talking about going through pictures with a fine tooth comb? I can confirm that we're still going through some pictures with a fine tooth comb.
Oh man, we haven't even started.
Stuff that people have not even seen yet. That are very few. Just a handful of people. There's actually more photos that could possibly come out later at some point. They're not, of course, they're not maybe as good as this one here, maybe, but they still have a lot of potential.
Duke, I never say A ever.
Yeah.
A lot of Canadians do, but not all Canadians say A after every sentence.
Oh yeah, I couldn't handle that, man. I'd have to mute you.
I'd mute myself. Believe me, it gets annoying.
Okay, now I guess we need to go on to the next part of this. Was that you had faced a lot of backlash over these two photos, and people claim that they were Photoshop fakes, bad Photoshop fakes. These are people that are within our Bigfoot community who are always debunking stuff and throwing doubt, and I guess they're experts, or at least in their own mind, they think they're experts. Am I correct in that assumption of that? What happened to you next?
Yeah, well, so I post them on the blog. They didn't end up staying up there very long, but I post them on the blog, and immediately, I mean, in a matter of minutes, they were right where you would expect them to go for people to start trashing them.
Sure.
So I had written basically what had happened that day and everything. The first thing they did, now I said in the article that I'm using a fake name for Becca. I said I'm calling this person Linda. That is not her real name. I was very clear about that. This is not her real name. I just don't want her involved in the Bigfoot community because a lot of you suck. So, but anyway,
True story.
yeah, it is. And so first thing they said, there is no one. He was by himself, and whoever he got to dress up like Bigfoot here, and they went on that little bit for a while. But no, it just kept going back to the same thing. Well, it's not this, and it's not that, and it's definitely not a bear. So it's either real or it's fake, but it can't be real. So it's horrible Photoshop. So that was the general consensus on this one, was that with the first picture, certain people thought, well, he might have something, and then when they looked at the second picture, hoax, horrible Photoshop hoax.
And I guess we should probably clarify too that now at the time Rebecca was kind of new into the whole Bigfoot phenomenon, I guess, or being out with you actually going. She may have had an interest in it, but she hadn't been out in the field a whole lot at this time, right?
No, it was only one time prior to that, and it was something really scary happened. So, but no, she had only been in the one time.
Well, could you imagine your first time going out Bigfooting and something terrifying happens? I don't know if I'd go back.
Man, after that one, I didn't want to go back. It was another one of those times where it was I can handle weird, but I can't, if it's something I can't fully grasp, then that's when I say, okay, I'm done. I'm out of here. I'm not going back, but I always go back. So
Yeah. Well, I guess my very first experience was when I was coon hunting, and it was kind of a frightening experience, but I didn't know what it was at the time. So I figured it out later, but I didn't know what it was at the time. So where we're at right now, the photos, we are, I'm going to show you that these photos are not Photoshop whatsoever. And how I'm going to do that, I'm going to show some pictures that I photoshopped. and
before we do that, I want to say that
sure.
Tom sent me the I apologize for being as stupid as I am about Photoshop and all that stuff. It just doesn't interest me, so I had no idea that when all this first came out, that I could have proved right then and there that they were legit, because I didn't know that there was a foolproof way out there
Sure.
to show that something wasn't photoshopped. I knew the signs of something being photoshopped, but I didn't know there was stuff. If there was, I thought, like Hollywood people would have it. I didn't think it was just common stuff that I could have shut people up with a long time ago. But so, yeah, they finding out that there was a way to shut this down, and I want to say once tonight is done and over with, I don't. Tom sent me the stuff, the software to the site actually to try it, and I said, no, I want you to do it, because if I do it, they're going to say that I'm lying.
Okay.
And that I want Tom to do it that way.
Well, they'll
And it's
probably say I'm lying too, but that's okay.
well, I'll say this. There may be people that are going to say that, but that we could have schemed this whole thing up all
no.
week. That we either way, if it takes a third party to get involved for me to send the pictures to, for them to see that they either are or they're not. I may consider it, but if you don't take the word of that man right there, and I'm not just saying it because he's a very close friend, I'm saying it because he is the way he is, and that's the way you see him in the Bigfoot community. That is exactly the way he lives his life, and he's a fine human being. So don't even dare start with that.
Thank you, sir.
Sorry with the language, but don't start with bullshit like that. You, regardless of what you think of me, don't start with that stuff on Tom, because Tom is a fine human being and would not absolutely ever be involved in any shenanigans like that.
Thank you, Leo, for that testimonial. I try to do everything I do honestly. I not intentionally mislead or lie to anybody. Now, I'll make mistakes. I can make mistakes like anybody else can, but I'm not going to intentionally lie or mislead someone. And you was talking about the website that I sent you, to where you can analyze photographs. But what maybe you didn't know, or maybe you did, I also had several pieces of software that will let me analyze photographs. And it's pretty good. But now this website that we actually use, that anybody can use it. It's photo forensics. You can actually go on there, and there's a steep learning curve on it, on some of the things that you can do. But you can actually find out about if something is photoshopped. So right now I'm going to show you a picture that I photoshopped. And it's a good picture, and I'll explain the picture as well. This is a picture that I used on our blog. And as you can see, it's two hunters that are walking, and the Bigfoot's throwing a rock at them. And the reason I made this, it was for a report that came in on our website. Maybe somebody contacted me through Facebook. I can't remember. But it was a story about two people hunting and a Bigfoot throwing rocks at them. So I just throw this little quick picture up to, for the story. So, and let me see if I want to show you another picture. See what the next one is. Okay, let's do this one. This will be okay. Now, when we run this picture through the photo forensic website, you can see that the figures that I photoshopped in, which were the two hunters, you can see their color is opposite of what really should be. And also the Bigfoot, it's out of place. And this is a pretty good example of determining that something is a Photoshop fake. And you can see, of course, down in the corner where we had the website and tagged on the photographs on this for this particular thing. So let me go back. The original, what I photoshopped in was the two hunters. Well, actually, it's one hunter, and I just flipped it a directional, and I photoshopped in the Bigfoot. We run it through the software. You can see all the white, which shows they are photoshopped. So I think that's pretty self-explanatory there. But I want to show you another picture as well. That's even that's really a better telltale sign of Photoshop. That's me back several years ago. I thought I was old and ugly then, but man, look at me now. That background, of course, was something that I already had, and I cut myself out and pasted myself on it. So when I run it through the photo forensic website, you can clearly see how it's been added in. You can see all the little line around it where it's been added in. I hope you can understand that and see that that's been cut out and added into the background or into the foreground.
It's pretty clear.
I think it's pretty easy to see. Now, we want to get to Leo's photographs. Our first photograph we want to use is the one that Leo took first, of the shadowy figure standing behind a tree. Some people say it was photoshopped or it was a bear or whatever, which the second photo clearly shows it's not a bear. So when we run it through the photo forensic website, we see no anomalies. Only thing we see as an anomaly is where the little tag has been added, the copyright thing has been added. There's nothing that indicates any kind of Photoshop whatsoever. So by just what I've showed you, you ought to be able to tell that this is a legit photograph of something. You may not believe it's a Bigfoot, and that's fine, but there's no evidence of any kind of Photoshop in that particular photograph. The original ran through the Photoshop detecting website. No Photoshop. The experts missed it on that one. But what about the other photograph, you may ask? Well, let's check it out. Let me find a chair. Okay, here we go. And for this purpose, I actually ran the original photograph that Leo sent me. This was before I enhanced it and de-blurred it in a little bit. I believe that's the right one anyways. But it doesn't matter really, because if it's Photoshopped, it's going to show it either way. So, excuse me, when we run it through the Photoshop, ta-da, there's no evidence of any kind of Photoshop. All you get's where the logo's been added. Notice all the purple, just like in the photograph where I pasted myself onto a background. Notice the purple and the pinkish looking colors and the white. You don't see that there. So again, the experts were wrong again. These so-called experts, they're self-proclaimed experts. I've been doing this a long time. I've been involved in everything from film to magazines to Photoshop, GIMP, all that stuff. And this photograph is not Photoshopped. It's just the long and short of it. That's just the truth of it. And there's the original photograph that Leo took. No Photoshop. There's the one. You see how it's cut out? You do not see that in the other photographs. It's not Photoshop, folks. That's why I always warn people, be careful who you listen to in the Bigfoot community. And this was the little thing I made for the blog, for a post about an actual report. Running through the Photoshop, you can clearly see these images stand out. That's where I Photoshopped it. So, I always say be careful who you listen to when it comes to this Bigfoot stuff. A majority of people are clowns, to be honest with you. They don't know what they're doing. They sit on their couch most of the time, and they don't never get into the forest. They self-proclaim themselves experts in everything from Photoshop to filmmaking to balloon animals, but none of it's true. You better stick with people who know what they're talking about, who actually get out into the woods and have some kind of actual knowledge about what we're doing. And we don't have to make stuff up. We don't have to come up with fantastical stories because we actually live it. We actually get out there and do it. So just be careful who you listen to in the Bigfoot community, because there's a whole lot of shady characters out there, in my opinion.
There's far too many, but they're not the biggest problem. The biggest problem are the people that sit and wait to hear what they have to say, and they'll just keep throwing things out there until something sticks. People grab it and run with it, and then the next thing you know, there's one of your pictures showing up on Facebook with debunked. Debunked how? How can you, I'm sorry, but those are not the worst Bigfoot pictures out there. Those are some of the best damn Bigfoot pictures since the Patterson film. I don't toot my own horn, but it irritates me because of new people coming in. They're always worrying about new people coming in, and we have to let them know about the hoaxers and all that. But we also have to let them know that there's people out there that take nothing but the good information, trash it to keep it quiet. Because if not, if it wasn't for them, things may have changed since 67. But what has changed since 67? Nothing. Because perfectly good pictures like that are thrown out, which is fine by me if that's what people want to do. What I do if I see a hoax, like you and I were talking about earlier, if I see something I think is a hoax, it's gone. I discard it. And that's pretty well where I leave it, unless I know that this person is going after somebody's money. Then that's a different story. Then I'll talk.
Yeah.
If I know something's a hoax and they're going after someone's money, then I'm going to talk.
Me and you have talked about this a few times. It seems like in the Bigfoot community as a whole, things are kind of upside down. The people who are really kind of getting out there and really finding stuff and really trying to put forth a real good effort, they get overlooked by some guy that's mostly a couch potato. Might go out on a trail at a state park, where, a few hundred, maybe 100 yards away from his car, and take pictures of shadows and foliage and tell a big fantastic story. And he's a speaker at every event. You know what I mean? And the guy goes out in the woods 3 times a year if he's lucky, but he's all at once he's the sought after guy because he has a big story that is most likely fake in most of the time. And I just don't get it. It's just an upside down. I don't know if you ever read comic books. You used to have a thing called Bizarro World in the Superman comic books. It was another world where Superman was like the bad guy and all that kind of stuff. And it's kind of like that in the Bigfoot community. Things are kind of upside down, but we've seen it over the years in the UFO community and even the paranormal to some degree. Man, don't post up a picture of what you think might be an orb, because it's always dust. They'll tell you to dust your house or buy a Swiffer or something like that. Just upside down everything is, man.
Yeah, the little bit that I saw of the UFO community, that the orb and dust argument, wow.
And used to now, back when I first kind of got into the public aspect of Bigfoot, I did a lot of kind of debunking and looking at things like your photograph like that. Look, see if it was photoshopped, or try to enhance it to where I could see maybe if it was a mask or something like that. I used to do quite a bit of that, but as I've got farther along in my own personal research, I got to where I care less about that and care more about what I do. Of course, I do if something's fake. And I know it. I like to warn people, because a lot of times these people that are doing fake stuff, they're also begging for money most of the time.
A good percentage of the time, yep.
They've always got a big project that you never hear. I mean, they put it out there, a big project, but they don't ever do anything with the money. Uh, they take up money for a film or a book or a blimp or a drone or something, and nothing ever comes from it. I don't know where the money goes. Maybe they paid off their mortgage or something. I don't know. I just don't get it, man, how these people keep a following.
Well, I don't need to name names. Not that anybody's not going to know what I'm talking about anyway. But look at Freezer Boy, for example. If he came back out today with a hoax, the same thing would happen all over again. People would pay for silver memberships, platinum memberships, and gold memberships. No matter how many times he does his thing, people are there with their wallet and going, "Here, take it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You need. Just take what you need."
Well, some people, I guess they call it the it factor. I have a friend, and a great guy, I like him. He can quit Bigfoot for months, maybe a year, and come back and just say, "Hey, I'm coming back to Bigfoot," and all at once everybody just flocks to him. And he's a good guy, and he's a decent researcher, but he don't go out nowhere near as much as he says he does. I know him, but man, he's got a draw that people just draw right to him, and he's had some real experiences. I mean, I'm not saying he don't, as far as I know, he don't really hoax anything or nothing like that. But I don't know of him even Bigfoot in the last 2 years. I don't even know of him ever been in the woods. But there's something about it when he talks, and the people are just flock to him, and that's the way Rick Dyer, which I talked to Rick Dyer before, and if you can get him away from Bigfoot and you get him away from trying to sell you a car or anything like that, Rick Dyer's actually kind of a nice guy to talk to. But when you bring the Bigfoot element into it, man, it just goes off the rails. So you're best, I wouldn't want to buy a car from him or nothing like that. But I don't think he's a terrible person, really. I think he does some terrible things, maybe when it comes to Bigfoot community. But they keep going to it, They keep asking for it, I guess, in a way. If he come out and done something today, like you said, they would go right to him.
It would be exactly the same as it was the last time. They would fall for it all over again.
And he may do something again. At least at least his stuff is kind of entertaining in a way.
Well, and you're right about Rick. He's not, if you talk to him about something else, he's a friendly country boy, and yeah. But whatever it is with him and the Bigfoot thing that sends him into doing loopy things, I don't know. But when you cross the line into taking someone's money, if someone's out there telling a tall tale, I mean, we have 2 Facebook groups. Everybody that joins the group says that they've seen one. They haven't. That not everybody in a group of 8,000 people has seen one. They feel like they have to say that, but it's just so that people are going to make up stories. And that's one thing. But when you're taking people's money, that's where Rick becomes that other name.
Well, what I always thought about him too. If he would have been legitimate,
yep,
he would have been a rock star, man. As far he would have been the best researcher ever if he just stayed legitimate and not done any of the hoax and stuff, because he's just got that draw that certain people have. And if he'd have stayed legit, people would have had a lot different opinion about him than they do now.
Yep.
And like I say, I don't hate the guy no ways. I mean, I just gotta know how he is.
I don't hate him. I hate the things that he did, and I hate the fact that when it was going on, you wanted to. Well, we all did try to tell people, this isn't new. Don't give him your money. Watch the stuff you want to watch, but don't give him your money.
Well, I like the shooting Bigfoot thing. I don't know how many people's actually watched it. It was actually a decent movie. Mm-hmm. Had Tom Biscardi in it and Dallas and Wayne in it, and it was okay. I mean, but you got to realize some of it was just it was all set up type stuff, but it was okay. It was okay for I don't remember how long the movie was. Just kill an hour or so. So I mean, it beat watching paint dry. But I think when it comes to your photos tonight, I think we actually, I think we have debunked the idea that these are photoshopped. There's just no way these are photoshopped. If it is, you've got some skill, bro. You got
well,
some.
it ain't that.
And those again, if you want to check photographs, you can actually go to photo forensics online. I think it's a .org. Is that what it is? Yeah, it's a .org, and you can put your photo in. And if you want to take the time and learn how to what to look for, you can do basically any photo. And it works better on some photos than it does others, of course, due to lighting and shading and how many times it's been saved. But you can see all that kind of information too as well. If you want to dig down through it, I mean, you can spend a lot of time doing it. So let's see. Our next topic, Leo. Do we know what we're going to?
I don't know what we're going to next, but the
Let
thing
me
that I
see.
want to finish up with about the pictures
Sure.
is I've said from day one, I don't care who, if you look at my stuff and you're not interested in it, you think it's fake, you think it's a hoax, think it. I don't care, but don't make up lies about me. That makes, you're trying to make me look stupid and you're making yourself look stupid because I just made probably 1,500 of you look stupid by showing you that my pictures were real when I didn't even know there was a way that I could do it. But so, yeah, I look a little stupid in that situation. But all these idiots that have all these people following them that just blindly took their word for it rather than checking into it themselves, sorry, but I got you again.
Well, that's the thing. A lot of these self-proclaimed experts, they don't really know what they're talking about.
But the people that can that look at what we have and can use it, and we learn from them and they learn from us, good. But as far as hoaxing and all that, after tonight, I'm done. There is no more talk about it. If you bring up the word hoax to me about anything,
Blocked and
chances
deleted.
are, yeah, I don't have time anymore. We've got great things going
Oh yeah,
coming up, and there's
there's
this,
things that people
it's
that's
over and
coming that
done
people
with.
don't even know yet.
Oh yeah, there's a we've got a lot going on, and it's all above board. It always has been, but anyway, people tried to make it out to not be. It always has been, but the hoax thing is done. Thank you. You're welcome. Good night.
And the thing is, these people will drag you down. I'm in it for the positive. I'm in it to learn and to share with other people who are like-minded. And I'm not against making any kind of money off of it, but I think you should do it honestly. Now, I make films. I make money off my films. I write a few crappy books and make a few dollars that way. Nothing that's going to make me rich, but uh, gas is kind of high, and cameras and all that kind of stuff are kind of expensive, and I like to buy them. So, I'm not against people making money off of Bigfoot. I know some people who are totally against you making any kind of money off of Bigfoot. They don't think you should go to any conferences or any events. Shouldn't set up any tables and try to sell anything. A lot of times they call them Bigfoot flea markets or Bigfoot swap meets and stuff like that. They don't think you should do any of that. And I'm not against any of that. I just think you should be honest with what you do. Don't.
There's nothing wrong with any of that as long as what you're providing to them, they understand exactly what it is and they're giving you cash for it. There's nothing wrong with that. It's when
The
you're
dishonesty.
selling hoax and promises. There's where the problem is.
Yeah.
Hoaxes and promises. And
well, I like the idea of taking my hobby or whatever you want to call it, hobby or passion or whatever you want to call it, and turn it into something that you could make a few dollars off of. I don't see nothing wrong with that.
there isn't.
Okay,
There
our
is
next. I like to make some more if I could. I got Okay, our next subject we want to talk about uh, is Leo's going to do the majority of the talking on this, I would imagine, because
I
he
am.
knows he's researched it quite a bit. Uh, Tell us what we're looking at here, Leo.
You are looking at Oak Island right there.
Okay, and tell us about old Mister Jim.
Jim Kaizer was a worker on Oak Island. He had several different positions. He basically did whatever needed to be done. So uh, I don't know if you have the years written down there.
I don't, but tell us a little bit about Oak Island itself before you get into Jim's story.
Well, for I don't even know. See, me being local, Oak Island isn't that big of a deal to me. So I knew about it from as far back as I can remember. They were on the island searching for treasure. Nobody's ever found anything. Now, more recently, in recent years, we find out yes, they have found things. They just haven't found the big treasure that people think are there. I don't necessarily think it'll be that kind of treasure. I think it'll be something of historical importance, but I don't see it as being a cache type thing. But basically, people have been for centuries have been over there trying to find the treasure. So a guy named Jim Kaizer, uh, a Mi'kmaq Indian, actually worked on the island, and like I said did several different jobs. And one of the families that owned it at one time um, had a little shack there that they would stay in when they were on the island, and the family's last name was Restall. So the that's the shack right there. It's called the Restall Shack or the Restall Cabin. Uh, Jim was asleep one night in that cabin, and he wakes up to having a giant hair covered something or other stand over him, human shape, standing over him and telling him to get off the island and to never come back. Now, Jim Kaizer was not known as he was the kind of guy that would legitimately play Russian roulette. You couldn't there was nothing that was going to scare him. He left that island and he never did go back. Uh, he apparently now I take this with a grain of salt for someone who's willing to sit there and play real Russian roulette with a gun, but he pretty well lost his mind after that. The incident happened, and unfortunately, he ended up in the end. He ended up committing suicide outside of a bar. But apparently, the effect that it had on him when he fessed up to what happened to his wife and to his son, he was apologizing for being he had become quite verbally abusive and possibly even physically abusive. And he broke down one day and told them what had happened on the island, and he never did come to terms with that very well. But he also wasn't the kind of guy that was going to take a lot of. If people teased him about it, they were cruising for a punch in the mouth. But you know how people get when they get drinking. So yeah, but the thing that should be remembered about Jim, I think, is the fact that when there was an accident on the island and lives were lost down basically a well uh, with poison gas. Some of Jim's friends were in there, and he got the call that something had happened on the island and that the fire department was over there. And so immediately he went over, and I think there was, I don't know, it was 3 or 4 bodies that were in the bottom.
I think there were 4.
Yeah, it's 3 or 4. And Jim, what they were going to do was reach down with poles with hooks on and try to get them that way. And he told him that he's not going to allow that. He grabbed a gas mask that one of the fire department members of the fire department had, slapped it on, and he went down and he brought them all up. He wouldn't allow that to happen. Now, Jim is remembered as the guy who saw this thing and went crazy and all of that, and he really should be remembered for being the biggest man on the island that day and going down and saving those people and getting those people out of there.
Yeah, he brought up. I was just looking at the story. He actually brought back. He brought 4 of them up. But no, and that was before. There was this. This was before he actually had the Bigfoot thing.
Oh yeah, it was before. Yeah, but no. Once he had the Bigfoot experience thing, no, when he was gone, he was gone. He did not ever step foot back on that island ever again.
And I'm just reading the article here. It says in 1976, shortly before his 50th birthday, James Kaizer took his own life by gunshot to the head outside of a bar on Western Shore, Nova Scotia.
Yep.
When he had the Bigfoot thing shake the shack, wasn't there some talk about him seeing some red eyes or something? It seemed like I remember that.
There was. The way I kind of picture it is, and it's the way that I've read it over and over, it was large. He could see that it was hair, that it was enough light there that he could see that it was hair covered, but like glowing red eyes also. So, some people try to they associate that with Bigfoot. But like we've said many times, we don't know everything that's large and hair covered out there. Some things are not exactly what we think. So
there's more than Bigfoot out there. And well, speaking of this little old shack here, it looks like it's really ran down and small. If a Bigfoot had wanted to, he could have probably pushed the shack over.
Oh yeah, and that's it was never much to begin with. It was just.
Yeah, it looks pretty rough. I don't know if I want to. The winters are pretty tough there. I don't know if I want to stay in that shack or not, man.
And this was a family that actually, before Jim was in there, like Jim came back to do a job there, and he was rehired to do a job there, and that's the cabin that he was staying in. But there was actually a family staying in that at one time.
Oh man, that's kind of like some of the old houses around here back from years ago when all the kids were barefooted and they wore feed sacks for clothes. And we were just talking about the people who perished. That's the list, right? Yeah.
Yep.
That's.
Now the legend says that there's still one more that has to die before the treasure will be found.
Well. I was looking at some of those dates. 1965 was some of them, but that's an interesting story with the guy. But a lot of times we talk about being traumatized after a Bigfoot sighting. Some people are. So this guy here, it took him to Jim. It took him to an extreme. I think it drove him even to drink more. I'm sure people thought he'd lost his mind.
Oh yeah, the drinking. He drank anyway, yeah. But his drinking definitely increased and got a lot worse, and so did his mental health.
Well, you think about people who do see a Bigfoot. A lot of times they do have it's a traumatic thing. It stays with them for a long time, and like in the case of Jim here, if he did tell somebody and they didn't believe him or made fun of him or whatever, it probably even amplified the trauma that he was experienced.
It would.
We actually have the full story on our website if anybody would want to read more of the details, you can actually go on our website and if you just type in Jim Kaizer, you can do a search in the search bar there on the left and read the whole story about how he got the bodies out of the well, which was really heroic
Yeah,
type of thing to do.
there's a lot more information in the post about exactly how everything went down. It's just we're just kind of doing a quick going
And
over it to get to the Bigfoot part, but
my understanding is also that the heroic act that he did, he never was really recognized for it. Correct?
they mentioned all the people that stood around and did nothing. He barely got a nod.
Uh, well, that's enough to irritate you. You know, if he
You're
was
right.
the guy. All right. So we can get. Thanks, Jim. We get Jim off of there, I guess. Nope, I took me off. You off. Where'd he go? We go. Did it go off? Nope. There we go. It didn't want to work for some reason. Let me see. Our next subject we're going to talk about is actually Paul Freeman, and I got some stuff I want to say about Paul Freeman. And I want to tell you some stuff about Paul Freeman. Let me see here. Where do I want to start with Paul Freeman? I don't know. Let's put this picture up, I guess, first of Paul Freeman, because Paul died. He died in 2003. Complications from diabetes. Let's see. Well, let's see if that gets it up there, Leo. There we go. Paul Freeman. I know everybody's seen his footage from 1994. Oh, there he goes footage. I'm sure people have seen that. But let's tell you a little bit about Paul Freeman. Paul Freeman, he was a United States force worker. He had his first Bigfoot sighting, his claimed Bigfoot sighting, in 1982. And as you probably can deduce, his footage was in 12 years later when he the famous "Oh, there he goes." The sighting he had in 1982, Paul described the figure as being roughly 8 foot tall and covered with brown hair. I think he referred to it as body hair, which was kind of interesting. But if you're not, I guess, part of the Bigfoot community, you may describe it as just being body hair. In 1994, Paul Freeman cast a set of footprints, which really would become really famous. Let me get to that picture. Most of you probably, you may not even realize it. Let's see. You've probably heard of Wrinklefoot. The Wrinklefoot cast. This was actually one of Paul Freeman's castings. There's both a left and right foot. They were taken in the Blue Mountains of Washington, Oregon area. And what was unique about these tracks, especially at the time, was that they had what would appear to be dermal ridges in them. Even some people even suggested that it showed sweat glands in parts of the foot. Grover Krantz, which is another very famous Bigfoot researcher, I'm sure everybody has heard of him. He actually tried to duplicate the dermal ridge patterns that was found in these castings. He used like a comb, and he used various other items, a butter knife, and all that kind of stuff to try to make it look like the dermal ridges that were in the in the casting, but he could not do it, which was kind of neat. But that's not all. I mean, this is when Freeman first really got started. He had his detractors as well. Let's get to another picture. If I can do it. Let me see here. Work with me, computer. My computer's not working, buddy. Let's see here. Oh, here we go. If you go the right way, it works.
Funny how that happens.
Yeah, you go the wrong way. What was kind of interesting next was that his son, I think his name was Dwayne, actually took a series of photographs. Him and his dad were together, supposedly. This was in 1989. Like I say, 5 years before he filmed the Oh, There He Goes. And some people always wanted to say that this was somebody in the costume, and I don't know, maybe it was. I don't know. But there was like 3 or 4 photographs of this figure they had shot with a some kind of camera with a big zoom lens type thing on it. And this was in '89. So who knows about it? I'm not for sure. The figure looks big and bulky. It's hard to say, you know. I know Freeman faced a lot of criticism over his photographs and his footage and all that stuff. Let's just see. Yeah, actually, here's another good picture as well of those tracks, which he had taken. They were supposedly from a juvenile. That's kind of interesting as well. But we're going to get to some other stuff with Paul Freeman. I like sharing some of these photographs of him too. This was his big thing, is I know what I saw. And as you see, he was kind of a young man there. This is in '82. This is right after his original sighting. I know what I saw. And let's see what else we got here. I kind of like this shot. This was the actual long distance shot of that close up one of the Bigfoot. It almost looks like a old VHS tape or something. Alrighty, let's go on. Let's see what else we got here. Okay, next we will have his 1994 sighting, this little video. And I've got just a little small, the part of the Bigfoot walking. This is where he says, "Oh, there he goes." And he had actually found numerous tracks in this area next to a little stream or a water hole or whatever. But this is probably his crowning glory, I suppose, of his Bigfoot research. Some people have commented that this Bigfoot looks kind of pregnant. What do you think about the clip, Leo?
First, it's 100% legit, but you know, I've never seen it at. I've seen clear versions of it, but I'm sitting here kind of stupefied because what you just mentioned about pregnant, there's something there, because that.
Some people claim it's a baby hanging onto the front too. I've heard
there's
that.
There's something there. But does he not, later on in the film, does he not pick a baby up from?
Yeah, that was the thing. That someone later on in the clip, they thought maybe he had hit it. This same figure had picked up a small one that was on up the trail or whatever.
its belly is out there, and you're talking to someone that actually did film a pregnant one. So now
Right.
I'm kind of mesmerized by just noticing this now after all these years. But regardless of pregnant or whatever that thing is on the front, there's some extra weight or something there. But that walk is 100% legit.
Well, now that's my thing. People tried to compare this to the Patterson footage. To me, what you got to realize is not all Bigfoot look alike. Uh, some of them they're kind of like humans in a way. There's some different body shapes, different facial features, and things like that. And this moves so fluid and smooth, I find it hard to believe that it would be a person in a suit. You can briefly see the buttocks on it there, just at the end of the clip. It's huge, but it moves so smooth. I don't think it would be a person in a suit. Even though I know a lot of people, and well, Freeman was he was beat up and badgered for years over his footage, and I don't know. To me, this looks very fluid. It don't look like a person moving in a suit, a bulky suit. And I know some of the criticism was that Freeman kind of had a big belly. He was a diabetic, and a lot of times diabetics are overweight. Not always. My son's very skinny; he's diabetic, but a lot of times they're overweight. And Freeman couldn't help him and the Bigfoot had a similar build. I ran into that with the game cam picture I have of a Bigfoot because we were similarly sized, which I'm a pretty good sized dude. But the Bigfoot was really not that much bigger than me. So yeah, that's something that's out of Freeman's control of what the Bigfoot's body shape is.
Well, I mean, and they can say what they want, but he's right there. We're watching him film it. So if anybody's insinuating that that's Paul, it can't be in two places at one time.
Well, some of them said it was his boy, but in the video you can hear Paul speaking, so it would have to be his son. And at the time, his son was not nowhere near that heavy, so, or I wouldn't think he would have been at the time. And another thing too, there's some YouTube videos that says it's the uncut version, and it shows Paul Freeman video on some tracks, and then he has this 1994 encounter, and that's really a little bit of bad information. Those were two separate events, and actually in between that, there's a birthday party on the camera. I know somebody who's got the whole actual footage, and the two events, even though people are putting them out as being one continuous event, it was two different occasions when he filmed the tracks and when he actually filmed this figure here. But I just find that hard to believe it's somebody in a suit. It moves too fluid.
Yeah, I got the same kind of grief with mine, and it's very simple. I don't care if you compare it to Patty. If you're using Patty for a blueprint for everything, nothing's going to be real because very few actually look like Patty. But if they can move that way so naturally, then either the whole area up there was rigged for it, or that's legit. And that it was the same thing with that I tried to point out to people with my film was if there was any type of, and again, form-fitting suit, not these big, bulky, dumpy, cheap gorilla suits that you see people pranking each other with, but she doesn't look down once in the shape she was in, as big as she was. She doesn't look down once as she's running through there. It's the same here. It's a matter of that he does not look at all, he, she, whatever, does not look at all uncomfortable there. Like it's
No.
trying to do anything. It's just, like you said, it's very fluid.
And it doesn't appear that it has any trouble or it's worried about stumbling or falling, or
It's navigating that perfectly.
yeah, no problem, just moving right along. Uh, but Freeman, one of his some of his people he worked with in the forestry uh, division wouldn't really comment on his evidence or on his footage or whatever. And the people thought that might have been kind of a red flag, but to me, it's not. It's rare that you'll find any fish and wildlife forestry guy or anything like that who will comment on Bigfoot, on the subject of Bigfoot, especially with anything that would be concerning possible evidence. They will always say it don't exist, or that people see what they want to see is what they told me.
Yep.
So to me it'd be rare that his coworkers would come out and say, "Yeah, he's an awesome guy and he caught the," you know what I mean? Because they couldn't do that. So to me, that's not really a red flag.
I've never understood what the red flags were with Freeman anyway, other than the stuff that people were being very inaccurate about. I don't see any red flags.
Let me see. I think I got some other stuff here too. This is actually a pretty cool. Uh, you'll probably have some insight on this too, Leo, because I know you've seen quite a few tracks. This is one of the tracks. I just grabbed a still shot from one of his videos. Uh, my opinion, due to the size, this is probably a juvenile. It's not that big of a track, but seems to be quite a bit of detail in it. You can see some toes. Looks pretty good. I know there was a little water hole there where I took it that they were getting they come there and get water is what I always thought they were doing. And
I believe that's what he said.
I think that's what I thought too. So looks like a pretty good track to me. See, I got some more stuff here on Freeman that are that's pretty cool. This is pretty neat right here too. This is his hand casting, and it was taken from Upper Dry Creek above the Dixie, Washington, April 21st, 1994. Let me zoom in on that just a little bit. This is pretty neat, man. It took a lot of plaster to get that hand casting.
Yeah, I would think.
And look how much you had to put around it, and I personally have found a few handprints myself. I didn't. One of them I didn't even realize what it was at first. When I just glanced down, I thought, it's a barefoot or something. Then I got to look and I thought, no, it can't be the thumb. It's got a thumb. So, I think that had actually got down and drunk water because it was not next to a creek.
In my case, it was I think there was an actual slip and fall or a tip over backwards kind of a deal, because I had one track in front, and then behind that is where I found the handprint. So it looked like whatever it was doing, it had to kind of fell back and brace itself with its hand, because its fingers did go down like quite a ways down in the sand. But what I noticed, what I've always noticed about this, and what someone pointed out to me with my handprint, the thumb is a lot. It seems to be lower than what it would be on a.
I've actually got another picture of that as well. That might be a little bit more beneficial. Which compare the thumb.
Yeah, and that's the same case. That's the case with my print too. The thumb is it, and that's not something I've ever, when I've been close enough to see their hands, that's not something that I ever noticed until I found the print, was how low the thumb was.
It's really down there, and it seems kind of, I would say, short and stubby.
That could be, though. The thumb didn't drive down into the soil as far as the fingers did, but
that's pretty interesting, I think. One of the things that kind of got Freeman in a little bit of hot water was he was concerned about uh, that somebody hoaxed him, that somebody come, and that's when he first started finding foot tracks, from my understanding, the best I can remember the story. He was concerned that somebody had actually come and done fake footprints to trick him. And he had made the, even though he made the castings and stuff, what kind of got him in hot water was he was trying to make some kind of apparatus to see if he could fake the tracks and look, and they would look similar. And of course, when he did the, I think it was some kind of interview for ABC. They cleverly edited where it made it look like he was faking tracks, of course, and so that kind of got him in a little bit of hot water over that. It was kind of a flag, I guess, a red flag type thing.
And ordinarily, and it would be if that was the true story. But the true story is just like you said, is that he was trying to reproduce something, and he was openly saying he was trying to reproduce it. So now, if that happened these days, we have cell phones and can sit there and record ourselves doing everything. So if it showed up online now while the person was doing it, it would be accepted. He didn't have the benefit of having a cell phone and recording every little thing he did. And even if when you had a video camera, you didn't go out and record every little thing you did.
Well,
but I don't feel he was being dishonest with that. He was trying to see if he could duplicate it to figure out what was going on. That's just investigating. That's not
right. We encourage people to try to do that now. We tell them to try to replicate it. Well, that's what he was evidently trying to do, was replicate it. And I always say this: just because you can replicate something doesn't mean it's not real. People have car accidents every day, but yet we can go out and replicate a car accident easily if we want to. But a real accident still happen.
And the other thing that people say that really drives me crazy, because I've seen it often, not a ridiculous amount of times, but I've seen it often enough to know that when people say if there's any human proportions at all, it's fake.
Yeah.
No, that is not. They're basically saying if there's any resemblance to human, then it's fake. But yet true. Go and read the sightings and see what people are saying. What is being reported in sightings is exactly that.
Well, there's some things that people may not actually know about this. While Freeman had a lot of people who were maybe doubted him and maybe scrutinized him a little bit, there's several people. Well, looks like Grover Krantz. He was well respected in the field, and he was a supporter of Freeman. But back then, when he had got these castings, a young fellow by the name of Jeff Meldrum and his brother actually took a drive to meet Freeman. And well, of course, everybody knows who Jeff Meldrum is. He's the guy who knows all about Bigfoot tracks and prints and all that kind of stuff. And they actually met with Freeman. And the ideal in Jeff's mind, according to what I've read, was that he was going to check out the prints, and at the worst case scenario, he would could debunk the tracks and use it as a teaching tool on how to spot fakes or something like that. Well, the thing is, once he actually met Freeman and got to look at the tracks, he realized that they were basically real, and he ended up purchasing almost all of Freeman's original tracks for study. And his thing was that they were real. So if you respect Dr. Meldrum for his research and study of foot tracks, he was a fellow that supported and thought that the castings were real. So, I'm sure if they was fake, he would have probably picked up on it pretty quick.
He would be the one to see the detail that maybe, I mean, Krantz would too. And I got to say, out of the Four Horsemen, Krantz was my favorite because the way he conducted himself, he was very quiet. He did a lot of thinking. It was very low key. Him and DeHinden would get into it and argue back and forth. But that was DeHinden stirring the pot there. But I just found he was I liked the way he carried himself.
Well, you bring up Rene DeHinden. He was one of the main people who didn't believe Freeman. He thought that it was all hoax. He thought that Freeman was just a publicity seeker. Uh, but you know, you got, and I like Rene DeHinden, but he was a very outspoken person. And you got to remember that Rene DeHinden never actually saw a Bigfoot all the years he investigated. So I thought maybe it might be a little bit of I hate to use the word jealousy, but I guess disappointment that Freeman had maybe seen one and filmed it and he never got to. I thought maybe that might have been why. There's a little bit of sour grapes there.
I always got the impression with DeHinden, and Becca would tell you this, that I'm not a fan. Have never been a fan. I've always found him completely miserable, and he was miserable when he passed away. And I would use the word jealousy. I mean, I feel bad that he never did get to see one, but I don't think he really has the attitude of. I don't think he really had the right attitude that they'd be too keen on coming out around him anyway.
Well, no,
he really just generally seemed bitter all the time.
Well, no, Rene DeHinden done a few. He done more commercials probably than Freeman done. As far as I understand, Freeman done done one actual commercial where he got paid. I think he made the comment one time that he at that time he had over $50,000 invested in research and time and gas, I guess, and cameras and all that kind of stuff, plaster or whatever. Had $50,000 worth of money in his research, and he made $2,000 for doing the commercial. So you know, hey, he's only $48,000 in the hole.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're gonna hoax for money, I mean, good luck to you. I mean, there are always going to be suckers out there that are just they want to believe so bad that they're going to believe anything. So there's always going to be that bunch, and there's always going to be the bunch that are the opposite and call everything fake. Mm-hmm. But
it's a very mixed bag.
You're not going to make any large amount of money off of a Bigfoot film. No, that's because there's too many people that just take the quick look at it and say, nope, fake, dude in a suit, gone.
That's over with. Yeah. Well, that's what I find kind of odd is that Rene DeHinden that called Freeman a publicity seeker, when in reality, DeHinden actually did more commercials and things like that than Freeman ever did.
And not just that. I mean, he would go to conferences that he wasn't even supposed to be at, and crash the conference and try to stand there in the aisle yelling at Krantz or whoever was doing the speech. He would go in and stand there in the aisle and try to argue with him to get all the focus on him. So it's sour grapes, it's jealousy, and I God rest his soul, but I didn't like the man.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, what was it, Konicke beer or something that
Kokanee. Yep.
Yeah, Kokanee beer. Yeah, they kind of spoofed the Freeman footage in their commercials, and Rene DeHinden actually done some commercials for them, with my understanding. So it's I don't know. I guess it was a kid's way of getting that Freeman.
Well, I find that a lot too, though. I mean, a lot of people point out that when someone calls something that they can't prove to be, they can't debunk it. they're calling it fake because they're angry that you got it and they didn't, and that's not the way it should be.
Well, I've always kind of liked Paul Freeman. I've not studied him in no great detail. I liked his 1994 footage pretty good. As you can look on the clip there, that thing's moving really smooth. But now, and I have to bring this up because it involves Freeman to some degree. He had hair samples, which some people said would be debunked. That they debunked it years ago. And then when he did on a rare occasion he did an event or something, he would bring in his castings and he'd bring in maybe some tree breaks and tree twist. But some of he's credited in the Melville Ketchum DNA study for whatever you think of that. That's up to you. But evidently one of his hair samples was saved and used in that study, and it tested out according to them that it was a Bigfoot. Or whatever they want, whatever their study, end up supporting as a Bigfoot. So in some ways, I guess if you give that study reverence, in some ways, I guess Paul Freeman in the end was kind of vindicated on that end of it, anyways.
I have no comment.
Well, I understand that. I understand a lot of people's kind of mixed on the Ketchum stuff. Yeah, but I will say this: I think
it would be nice that if that same hair could be tested in a more legitimate, accepted, and I would like to see it tested again. But the problem is, what are you going to test it against?
Right. That's what I always say. There's why test it, because you don't have anything to gauge it against. But now I think as far as the Ketchum study goes, I think without a doubt there were numerous good DNA samples there. Now, what they did with them and how they come about to their results, I think that's where a lot of people have questions. But to think that Paul Freeman had a hair sample in that, and it came out a Bigfoot. Now, of course, we would like to have that further tested, but let's just suppose that it is true. If it is, that means it really lends credence to that Paul Freeman was telling the truth, and that he actually was having these Bigfoot experiences.
And if you listen to his interviews, he doesn't come across as sometimes you could just spot a BSer.
Yeah.
He doesn't automatically come across as that at all.
Well, what I found interesting was that a lot of people didn't like him, and I thought he was come across as being a kind of a likable guy.
I didn't. Just going by an interview or two is kind of hard to tell, but I didn't find anything particularly off-putting about him.
Well, I don't know if you know Tom Powell, I think is his last name.
Yep.
Powell. He actually sent me the lost interview. I actually done a thing on it, try to clean it up, of Paul Freeman that he had did for a documentary. And as they filmed the documentary, they allowed Tom to actually film his own version of it. But their equipment caused Tom's equipment to have a buzzing in the audio. And very little of the actual interview was actually even used, but Freeman talks in great detail, and I've got it on on one of our YouTube channels. You might even be able to find it on our website. And the audio was really bad at first. I've tried to clean it up, but that buzzing, that electronic noise buzzing, is very hard to get out of films. But if you stay with it, it gets a little better. And he just talks real candid about things, and I think by that point in his life, he was kind of diabetes just kind of maybe got the best of him, and he was really kind of candid about what he saw and experienced, and in some ways, I felt like in his interview he was kind of fed up with how he'd been treated.
I was just going to say, it's if he came off that way, and I remember the interview, and yeah, that sound is horrible.
It is.
but
It's so hard. Yeah.
but I mean, you can only do what you can do, right?
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, I'll tell you firsthand. It gets trying on the nerves after a while when you know you're telling the truth. You know it to be a fact. I mean, you have eyewitnesses to it and all this and that, and some jackass that has never laid eyes on you, never spoken a word to you, says it's not true, and 100 people jump on that just because he said so. So yeah, it's not pleasant. It's irritating, and it's enough to keep people with a lot better than what's out there now, including mine, including the Patterson film, um, including this. It's stopping all these people from coming forward with it. I'm sure there's other reasons too. That I know there's some other reasons that certain people can't. But yeah, it gets trying after a while, and you really feel like hauling off and punching somebody in the mouth for what some of the things they say.
I've
So
only
I
had
would.
one guy I wanted to hit.
Oh, I've got one guy that someday I probably am going to hit, but
This guy was not. He was pretty friendly to me at first, and then he got mad at me over something and sent some awful, mean, and nasty text to me. And at the time, it irritated me pretty good. And that's the only guy I ever wanted to punch. But I'm kind of over that now. But he's still taking people in with his stuff. But I won't get into that. But he's the reason one of my films has got a whole lot of negative reviews. He's put his minions on me. But back to Paul Freeman. Here's an interesting thing that some people may not know. Paul Freeman actually had found what would be buttocks print where a Bigfoot had set on the ground, and this was way before the what's it called, the Sukum track thing, Sukum casting.
Yeah.
And this was years before that. He had actually found where the buttocks where it set in the mud. So I thought that was kind of a little interesting tidbit about him.
It is when you I mean, most people would probably think the Skookum cast was the first, or at least one of the first, but I didn't know that Freeman had that.
Yeah, he found it. I don't remember what the year was, but that's just a little, sidebar thing, that odd fact sometimes that I remember. And somebody wanted to make a big deal about his handprint because Ivan Marks had made a plaster cast of a supposed handprint, which we know Marks had all his stuff was fake.
That's what I mean. If people would leave it to other people's common sense, you really, though, do they really need to be analyzed to the point that they are? I mean, most things that are fake, you look at them for 5 seconds and you know they're fake. And with Marks and his stuff,
well, his suit was even ripped on some of it. The suit was tore apart.
Terrible.
Well, see, they wanted to say that because Marks had actually faked a handprint that years later, or a year later or something, that Freeman had faked one. Well, what was it, Jerry Crew or some of them found tracks. That don't mean all the other tracks people found was they done it fake. It's just their logic is gone when it comes to stuff like that.
It is because somebody did it at one point. Every handprint after that would be.
It's all fake.
Good Lord.
That's so funny.
Well, I know the one that the good one. I've seen a few myself, but the really clear, really good one that I have. It would be this part of the hand. That was the only part that had started to dry. So I was looking down at it, thinking whichever one made this, and I can generally go by foot size and tell which one did it, which left the track. But with the hand size, I don't know.
Yeah, that's me. I don't know neither. You've heard people describe them as look like they got baseball mitts on, And even the Stacy Brown footage, the thermal footage where it kind of goes across, uh, the hand looks real big in that. So I know some people have kind of busted him on that too, as it being a hoax and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know. I don't actually no proof that that was a hoax. I think it looks pretty good. The hands are big. I don't know the whole story, and I always liked Stacy very well.
I
Stacy.
don't. I don't. I don't see the Brown footage as being an obvious. If it's a hoax, it's not an obvious one.
So
I'll say that. And
that's
I don't. I don't. When it comes to Stacy Brown, I don't. He does his thing, and I don't particularly like or dislike. I don't know the man, so I mean, other than a few exchanges on Facebook years ago, whether you like someone or whether you don't like someone, that has nothing to do with what's in the film.
exactly. Well, that's the same thing with people. Well, anybody that's got evidence. I may not like them as a person, but if their evidence is good, that's cool. There's people out there I don't particularly like their research techniques or the things they say or do, but sometimes they come up with something that's well. For example, Tom Biscardi. A lot of people don't like Tom Biscardi, but back years ago, Tom had presented some stuff that I thought was pretty interesting. Um, then later on in life, some of his stuff that I didn't care for. But some of the stuff is kind of interesting. And I can't remember what the name of the film was. It's one way back there. Just because a person is maybe you may not like them, or maybe you do like them, you can't take everything. I guess and just because you don't like them as being a hoax, or just because you do as it being real, you kind of have to take each piece as it comes out.
And really, that if that's one point that I wanted to get across, it would be look at things with your own eyes. Think about them with your own mind. Don't sit back and wait for some Bigfoot policeman that
Expert, but
doesn't do anything at all but sit and trash people. Don't sit back and wait for them to tell you what you think. Look at it with your own eyes and your own brain. And if it's fake, the worst thing you can do is pay attention to it. So get rid of it. Point out that you believe it's fake, and then get rid of it, because people think that they're doing a big service, but would not the reason to hoax, wouldn't that be attention? And if you keep showing this over and over and over again, you're giving them clicks and you're giving them attention. Make your point. Don't dwell on it, and make your point and move on.
uh, I think that's an interesting little quote right there from Paul Freeman. And this was after his 1982 sighting. Of course, he had no pictures or anything like that of it. Now, people are calling me up at home, and my phone number is unlisted, and telling me I'm crazy, and even calling my kid's name and so forth. And this was in 1982. Now, thanks to Facebook and social media, we can bully people without having to call them on the phone. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's 1,000 times worse now
Yeah.
than what it was then. So
I can call you crazy in a Bigfoot group. It's got 20,000 people in it. I don't have to call you personally and call you crazy. That's the kind of stuff. See, we was facing it back then. We was facing that kind of ridicule. Now I think it's really amplified thanks to social media.
well, I mean, we all know that people are going to get on there and say things that they would never, ever in a million years have the guts to say to your face. Because for all the people that shot their mouth off about me, how many people have actually had come to me and tell me to my face that I had hoaxed anything, or even say from the Bigfoot world, how many of them have actually come to my face and said anything negative at all?
Because
That
even
many.
well, uh, uh, you know, Facebook and excuse me, social media. It's easy to be the tough guy.
Mm.
You don't have to never see me. I was looking at this part of the article here. They asked Freeman about if he would have had a gun, if he would have shot it, and he said at first he probably would have, but as it turned and to walk away from me, I wouldn't have. I think that's kind of shows a little bit of his mentality at the time, uh, that he would have just let it. If it walked away and not basically came toward him or whatever, he would have just let it go on.
And I think we both know from experience, and I know it's one thing that bothers people about me is, well, why didn't you continue to film? Why didn't you this? Why didn't you that? All of those things afterward are fine for people to say, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? But then there's this thing that if you want things to continue and you want your research to progress, if you pull stupid stuff like that, like I said earlier, if you pull stupid stuff like that, it's going to come to an abrupt end right then and there. So when they to have them, when I filmed her, the pregnant one, when she ran out of gas and I saw that she was out of gas, and she turned her back to me, that put her in a vulnerable position, a very vulnerable position. Had I had a gun, but I felt completely. It was a completely different feeling that came over me when I saw how she was out of gas, and when she turned her back, it was a completely different feeling that came over me. It was like in my mind, I went, "Oh man, that's enough. Back off."
Well, that's me. I've had some, I guess, one experience where I could have done something stupid, I guess. I had very, very close wood knots. The foliage is pretty thick there. I couldn't see anything. I actually I was filming and caught the wood knock on camera. And I actually film in the area. And what's funny is there was a structure there as well. It was very close. I mean, I could have pulled out my pistol and just fired over in there randomly, because I know it wasn't a person. But what would that have done to my research area? Most likely that I wouldn't have been welcome back in there. And if I did go in there, there wouldn't be no action, and what action I'd get would probably have been aggressive, yeah, stuff I wouldn't want. So I think we have to respect, some degree, and I think they understand we're going to try to get footage and things like that. That's just that's what we do. But I think there's a point you can't cross, or you shouldn't cross.
It's not a very smart idea. If you want to completely ruin any progress you've made, then go right ahead. But
Right.
Once it's done, it's done.
Well, I had planned on going back to my gifting area this week, but of course, like I said at the first of the show, I've had two family members in the hospital. My dad, my uncle. I had a delivery from Lowe's, that they brought part of the order, but the order shows it's totally delivered. So I had to call them again today and say, "Hey, where's all my wood?" They didn't send me the wood. They sent the appliance that I ordered, but they didn't send the wood. But the billing says it's all been delivered.
Lovely.
Yeah, so I called and I talked to the little girl, and she said that she would have to look up all the paperwork and every individual item and see exactly what they've done, and she'd give me a call back. Well, she didn't call today, so I'm hoping she'll call tomorrow. So that makes me have to babysit the phone a little bit, because I want to, it's only about, I don't know, maybe a couple $100 worth of wood. It's just something I needed to do on my porch. Changing my steps around and things like that. But I don't want to just lose the $200. I want my wood.
Well, yeah,
so I have to babysit the phone.
Yeah, unfortunately, that happens.
And plus, we had snow and ice today, of all things.
Did you really?
Yeah. It's. I heard the ice hitting the window, and there's a chance of snow flurries tomorrow and Sunday. So that kind of, I don't like the cold. As I got older, I don't like the cold. So I'll probably.
It's because it hurts.
Because I'm old.
Nobody told me this was going to happen after I hit 40. I mean, I had a little bit of arthritis when I was younger. I got a lot
40?
of.
Man, I can't hardly remember 40.
Well, yeah, but I was 45 when I was 40. That was 5 years ago, but that's when everything really started to ache with the weather and stuff like that. Like, no, no, no. This is supposed to happen to 70, 80 year olds. This ain't supposed to happen at 40. And here I am at 45, three-quarters crippled up.
Well, my understanding is we had redbud winter. They call it redbud winter, and there's two or three little things they call it the winters that where winter hangs on. So hopefully this will be the last hurrah, and we can get on to some spring-like weather. I've actually mowed my grass completely once already, and I'd actually mowed some before that. So we've had some like 80-degree days, and now we're getting some snow. But I would like to go to the woods a little bit. I got some trips planned at the 1st of May, so there's a chance the first week of May we won't have a show because I will have company and we will be probably in the woods quite a bit.
Well, at least if you miss a show, you can't fire yourself. So
and I'll be out in the woods, so that's not terrible.
there you go. But no, all we had today, we had every Friday we have precipitation, we have wind, and we have our show. That's Friday for me.
Oh, that's Friday. No, we get it on Wednesday nights too. We usually get rain and wind, so my garbage blows away, and the garbage man didn't get it last week, so he got an extra big load this time. Ouch. But I guess this is probably we're at the end of our little program. Um, oh, there he goes, and he's gone. uh, but I think we've had a good show tonight. I think we've uh, shown your original photographs, running them through the website to show there's no Photoshop in them. I think that was a major accomplishment, really, especially if you can debunk someone's claim that it's a hoax or a fake. And I think it easily showed that that's not photoshopped images.
Well, I was talking to someone today, and they asked me if I knew the results. I said, well, I knew the results the minute I got the pictures.
You just got them confirmed, right?
Yeah.
Now tomorrow, I may be away. There's a chance my dad gets released from the hospital tomorrow. If so, I'll have to go pick him up. Hour and a half drive each direction. So of course, you get a little time there. There's getting all this stuff together and whatever. So there's a chance if he gets released tomorrow, I'll be gone. So try not to miss me too much, everybody. I got a lot of stuff to do too. I did get a book uploaded today to publish. I'm gonna try to I'll try to post about that tomorrow. It's not my book. It's Sandra Range DeBusk, wonderful writer. Has Bigfoot and various other creatures on her property. At some point, I would like to have her on the show. I think
that'd probably be a good idea.
I think she's limited on her internet right now because I think she used maybe a satellite or something like that, and it's very low speed, and it's got a cap per month, so it's hard for her to do a interview or anything like that. But now some of her pictures are really good. I really like them, and some of her track pictures are really they look good to me. But she has some dog men and some other. The one picture she had is a I don't know. I guess it's an alien or something. It's really a weird looking thing. I don't know.
Well, who knows, man? We don't know what's out there. But you need to look at the chat because you got Maz in there with a couple of comments.
Appreciate that.
You just got a new subscriber.
I appreciate that too as well. And yes, please continue prayer for my father and my uncle. I think my dad's going to be okay. My uncle's got probably a little more serious thing he's facing. But I talked to him yesterday. I stopped by and visited with him about an hour on my way back from seeing my father, and he was doing well. He's actually able to eat again, which is good. Uh, Not being able to eat, well, it don't take long till you get to feel really bad. Uh, Especially if you're going hungry and getting weaker, it makes you weak. So he's being able to eat and he's home. So we want him to continue to heal and make a full recovery. We hope. My dad, they got my dad lined out. He was doing better when I was down there. Uh, he was totally depleted of iron. Uh, his potassium was way too high. His heart enzyme was way too high. So they got all that leveled out. He's been in AFib, and they've kind of got that leveled out now. So hopefully he gets to come home and he gets going back to weed eat. He loves to weed eat and mow grass and stuff like that. As long as he don't overdo it, that's fine. And also, I want to thank Maze for the donation. I appreciate that, and good to see Mary and Wendy, and appreciate you guys, and Gene, and we appreciate you guys following us and helping us out and listening to what we have to say. So I know myself and I know Leo, we both do get out in the woods a lot, not as much through the winter because we're getting old and we don't like the cold weather. At least that's my excuse. And this week's been hard on me, so a lot of sitting around waiting and hoping and seeing what's going to happen. It's kind of nerve wracking. But we appreciate everybody tuning in, and we're going to have us a good show next week. No bad luck. We're not sure what the topic is, but we got a secret we might reveal next week of something that's coming in the near future that most people, I think, will like.
I think we should do that next week. I think we should
probably get
that up next week. Yeah.
Yeah, because the project has moved along fairly well, and if I get to work on it,
that's the thing. It went a lot faster than I thought. So.
Well, you know me, once I get kind of an idea, I like to just go ahead and start it, even if it takes me a while to finish it out. But yeah, we might do that next week. That'll be something interesting that I think people will like it.
I think so. And you know what? We might even have a couple more pictures to look at. You never know.
You never know. I know a couple we've looked at that was pretty interesting. But we'll come up with something. I think. I'm not opposed to having a guest neither, but we got a lot of information we can share.
Having guests on is great, and we've got a couple that we've already got to have back at some point and everything. But we did get some compliments, and a lot of the compliments that I get about this show is that sometimes on the weeks when we don't have guests, they feel like they're just hanging out with me and you, and that's basically what we wanted. So that's cool.
Yeah, that's for sure. I want it to be comfortable. I don't want it to be irritating to people. I know, sometimes you can watch even normal TV shows, and there's something about it just kind of, I don't know, just kind of set your teeth on edge or whatever. I want it to be relaxed and comfortable, and I don't care to make jokes and tell stupid stories about my life because I've had some weird times.
Well, it's not, if you can't do that and have a little bit of fun, then you're not relaxed and comfortable.
Well, if I tell all my secrets, I take my enemy's power away. They can't hold it over my head, which I've done. I've not done a whole lot of bad things or weird. Things that I wouldn't tell. One thing I like to tell: I've never had a drink of alcohol my whole life. Ta-da! I like to tell that.
Up until 9 years ago, man, I drank my share and your share. So,
and it's funny because my grandmother was a bootlegger, and my other grandmother for many years was an alcoholic. So, so I know about it and seen it, and it just never did interest me. But yeah, I tell people I've never had a drink of alcohol my whole life, and sometimes they don't believe me, but that's okay. You can't make people believe you.
Well, that is for sure.
But I guess we better end the show. My wife's got to get up early for work. Saturday's her early day. She gets up at like 2:00 or something. Last Friday, I just sat up all night till she got up, and I didn't go to bed at 4:00 that morning. Might do it tonight. Who knows? I like to play Madden football, so I might do that.
There you go.
But we appreciate everybody for watching and tuning in. If you get a chance, go to our Facebook page and like Mysteries Unlimited podcast. And next week we will reveal a special surprise. Who knows? We might even give something away. We ain't gave nothing away in what 2 or 3 weeks. Let's give something away next week too.
It's been a while.
Let's do that next week too.
I think
But we appreciate everybody watching and say goodbye, Leo.
Goodbye, Leo.
Oh, wait a
Why do
minute.
you make me say that every week?
I think it's funny. All right, Leo, be good, man. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Nobody loves you.
All right.
All right. Okay, guys. Appreciate y'all, and y'all be good and have a wonderful evening.